صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: وعليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعوذ بالله أبدا من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. اللهم صل فما كانت إلا ساعة إذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدة. يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. اللهم فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدة. يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله. أتعذر لي أن أدخل معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: عليك السلام يا والدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عم رسول الله. فقلت: نعم أهو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي ويا صاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه. يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بضعفي الكساء فأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا هرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال الله عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل فقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك بعزتي وجلالي: إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن
کوفہ میں جب آل مصطفیٰ دیار کوفہ میں جب آل مصطفیٰ تو ایک خلق تماشے کو جا بجا رسول پاک کی طرح جو بیردائی صدائے گریائے زہرا و مرتضی صدائے گریائے زہرا و مرتضی نیا ستم تھا کہ رونے کو جی ترستا تھا نبی کی آل پہ پتھر کا میں برستا تھا حرم نے پیشی یہ دربار کی خبر جو سنی بلا کے شمرے لہی کو پکاری بنت علی سنا ہے ساس کرسی نشی وہاں ہے شقی ہمیں ردا تو اڑا دے کہ ہم ہیں آل نبی ہمیں ردا تو اڑا دے کہ ہم ہیں آل نبی پکارا ہنس کے ستمگر یہ ہو نہیں سکتا تمہیں نصیب ہو چادر یہ ہو نہیں سکتا تمہیں نصیب ہو چادر یہ ہو نہیں سکتا یہ سن کے اہل حرم دل پہ داغ کھا کے چلے اسی طرح سے وہ ناچار سر جھکا کے چلے ہجوم عام دکھ سہ کے غم اٹھا کے چلے لائی کی بزم میں بالوں سے منہ چھپا کے چلے لائی کی بزم میں بالوں سے منہ چھپا کے چلے ڈرے امیر پاک کیا کیا نہ شور و شر دیکھا لکھا ہے معاصر مسلم لہو میں تر دیکھا وہ فرق دیکھ کے بولی یہ زینب ناچار میرے غریب برادر میں تیرے سر کے نثار مگر حسین کے سر سے ہوئی جو آنکھیں چار قریب آ کے تھما فرق سید ابرار قریب آ کے تھما فرق سید ابرار ندا یہ آئی کہ یا شاہ سلام علی و فاطمہ کے ماں سلام علی و فاطمہ کے ماں سلام دیار کوفہ میں جب آل مصطفیٰ آئی شکریہ
محترم سورہ فاتحہ کی گزارش ہے. سلمہ زیدی مدر آف ڈاکٹر فراز زیدی جو پاکستان میں شدید علیل تھی, اسٹڈی ہم نے ان کے لیے دعا صحت کرائی تھی, ان کا انتقال ہو گیا ہے. ان کے لیے سورہ فاتحہ اس میں جمعہ مومنین اور مومنات کو بھی شامل فرمائیں, بالخصوص شہداء ملت جعفریہ کو اور اپنے مرحومین کو. سورہ فاتحہ کی گزارش ہے. بابلین بنی ہاشم شاہی کی جانب سے یکم محرم سے جو مجلس اعزاز کا سلسلہ شروع ہوا ہے وہ انشاءاللہ 7 ربیع الاول تک اسی طرح جاری رہے گا. یہ مجلسیں نماز مغربین باجماعت کے فوراً بعد شروع ہو جاتی ہیں. آپ سے پابندی وقت کے ساتھ شرکت کی اپیل ہے. 13 محرم سے 20 محرم تک جناب نبیل اوان صاحب انگلش میں مجلسوں سے خطاب کر رہے ہیں. یوتھ سے اسپیشل گزارش ہے کہ ضرور اس میں مجلسوں میں شرکت کریں. یہ تمام مجلسیں انگلش میں ہیں. 21 محرم سے 30 محرم جناب ڈاکٹر مرزا شفیق حسین شفق خطاب فرمائیں گے. یکم سفر سے 10 سفر جناب ڈاکٹر حسن کمالی صاحب آف انڈیا یہاں پہ مجلسوں سے خطاب فرمائیں گے. یوتھ سیشن جو جناب شیخ نبیل اwan صاحب کی سربراہی میں قیادت میں ان کی معاونت میں ہو رہا ہے وہ انشاءاللہ جولائی 26 برود جمعہ شام 7 بجے ہوگا. یوتھ سے بالخصوص اپیل ہے کہ وہ اس میں ضرور شرکت فرمائیں. بابلین کی تمام مجلسیں تمام پروگرام آپ لوگوں کے تعاون اور سپورٹ سے ہی چل رہی ہیں. آپ سے گزارش ہے کہ مجلسوں کو اسپانسر کریں. مجلسوں کو اسپانسر کرنے کے لیے آپ یہاں پہ ہمارے لیڈیز اور جینٹس میں پوسٹر بھی لگا ہے. جس دن کی مجلس آپ اسپانسر کرنا چاہیے اس دن آپ اپنا نام لکھوا سکتے ہیں. محرم فنڈ میں ڈونیشن دے سکتے ہیں جس کی ٹیکسیبل رسید آپ حاصل کر سکتے ہیں. آپ ہمیں ای ٹرانسفر کر سکتے ہیں info@banihashim.org. آپ ہمارے پلیٹ فارم بھر سکتے ہیں جو ہماری ویب سائٹ پہ بھی ہے اور یہاں پہ ڈیسک پہ بھی اویلیبل ہے. پلیٹ فارم ہمارے جو منتھ ٹو منتھ ایکسپینسز ہیں ان کے لیے ہماری ریکویسٹ ہے کہ آپ پلیٹ فارم کو ضرور فل کریں. بابلین کی ممبرشپ جو کہ یکم محرم سے 30 سفر تک کی ہے اور ممبرشپ کے فارم جو ہیں وہ ویب سائٹ پہ اویلیبل ہیں. لیڈیز اور جینٹس کے ڈیسک پہ بھی ہیں. آپ سے گزارش ہے جنہوں نے ابھی تک ممبرشپ فارم نہیں فل کیا وہ ضرور فل کریں. جو ہماری ممبرشپ فارم یکم محرم سے 30 سفر تک فل کریں گے ان کا نام زیارت کے ڈرا میں جائے گا اور جس کا بھی نام مومنات کا نام زیارت میں ہوتا ہے اس کو بنی ہاشم سوسائٹی اپنے خرچے میں زیارت کے لیے بھیجے گی. بابلین کے پاس خمس کا اجازت نامہ موجود ہے. آپ سے گزارش ہے کہ خمس آپ اگر دیں تو اس کی ٹیکسیبل رسید آپ ہینڈ سے حاصل کر سکتے ہیں. اس کے ساتھ ہی میں گزارش کروں گا جناب قبلہ مولانا شیخ نبیل اوان صاحب سے کہ آپ تشریف لائیں اور آج کی مجلس سے خطاب فرمائیں. آواز بلند صلوات.
ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته. ثم الصلاة والسلام وتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الهداة المهديين سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم ملعونين. أما بعد, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziya, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumin, of the graves of the shuhada, ulama and siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahlul Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam Marwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of our azah, Ya Allah forgive our sins. Ya Allah forgive the sins of our parents. Ya Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shafa'ah. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. Keep safe the Shia of Ali Muhammad around the world. Ya Allah, give victory to the people of Palestine. Destroy the oppressors wherever in the world there may be. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to go on the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein this year and every year. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq for Hajj and Umrah this year and every year. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true muntadhirin, his true waiters, for the acceptance of these du'as and any other du'as that you brothers and sisters have brought. Please recite your loudest salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim. Yesterday we left our discussion, or the last point that we were discussing was the idea of the total power and authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When an individual realizes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only authority, only power that is in existence in this world, and that they are intrinsically tied to that power, then there is nothing that makes that individual, or there is nothing that can break that individual. The whole world can turn against them and the whole world can stand against them, but as long as they know that Allah is there by their side, they will never ever fall or collapse under the weight of what is occurring upon, or what is falling upon them. But in order to reach that maqam, one has to do something that is total cutting off from everything. A hijrah of sorts, a migration from the state of attachment to a point of disattachment or unattachment, where now nothing governs me, nothing controls me. I'm able to transcend beyond any sort of mortal connections that bind me to this mortal realm. And this is what Amir al-Mu'mineen refers to in Munajat Sha'baniyah. He says, Ilahi habli kamal al-inqita'i ilayk wa anir absar qulubina bidhiya'i nadariha ilayk hatta takhriqa absar al-qulub hujub al-nur fattasila ila ma'din al-'azama. Says, my Lord, allow me to do kamal al-inqita', to totally cut off from everything that seeks to distract me from you, so that the eyes of my heart may be illuminated by cutting through all of the curtains that separate me and you, and they are illuminated by gazing upon your divine light and your majesty. This ascension that the human being must go through, this hijrah that the human being must embark upon, is one of total detachment. And you find that detachment there in Karbala, in the wujud of the Imam and all of those that were around him. If you look at Sayyid al-Shuhada himself, and I said that final poem of the Imam, he leaves Ilahi taraktu al-khalqa turran fi hawaka. This is at the last moment. There's no one left. Everything has been given. And this is where the narrations say with every shaheed that Hussein gave, his face became brighter as he got closer and closer to the divine light. And this itself is a discussion. Does the hujjah of Allah ascend in his maqam, or is the hujjah already at the highest maqam? It's an interesting point. Is the hujjah already at the maqam that he's at, or does the hujjah ascend even more? If he's already at the highest maqam, then that would mean that Allah is limited. But because Allah is limitless, the ascent of the hujjah of Allah is also limitless. Because Allah has no intiha, the ascent of the hujjah is bi-intiha as well. There is no peak of it. And so when Sayyid al-Shuhada, although already at a higher level than all of the makhluk, but when it comes to Allah, he's still makhluk and Allah is khaliq. He is still a makhluk, and so his ability to ascend is there. So every shaheed that he gives, his face becomes brighter and brighter as he ascends higher and higher in his realms. And now at the final point, when everything has been given, he sits up on his horse. Ilahi taraktu al-khalqa turran fi hawaka wa itamtu al-ayala likay araka wa in qatta'tani bil-hubbi iraban iraba limal al-fuadu ila siwaka. My Lord, I've left the whole of creation for your sake. I've orphaned my children so that I may see you, and even if the swords were to come and cut me to pieces, my heart would turn to none but you. But this is the hujjah of Allah. We wouldn't expect anything less from the hujjah of Allah. That he holds the lifeless body of his 6-month-old child in his hands, and he says, Ilahi, this is easy for Hussein to bear, knowing that you are watching. That knowing that it is happening under your gaze. But that's the hujjah of Allah. But you see all of those other individuals in Karbala that were with Sayyid al-Shuhada, those 72, see, the closer you get to the hujjah of Allah, the more you ascend along with the hujjah. And so you find someone like Abis ibn Shabib al-Shakiri, an individual who transcends not just the physical, not just at a spiritual level, but transcends from his own physical attachment to his body. Abis ibn Shabib al-Shakiri is the only person in Karbala that was not killed by a sword or an arrow or a spear. He's the only person in Karbala who was stoned to death. Abis comes out and he begins to take off his armor. He throws his armor aside. He takes his helmet. He throws it aside. He removes his sword. He throws it aside. He begins to walk out. They say to him, Abis, have you gone mad? He replies, yes, Hubb al-Husayn ajinnani. Says, the love of Hussein has driven me mad. Says, the love of Abi Abdullah has driven me mad. He walks out. Umar ibn Sa'd says, Hada Asadul Aswad. No one go near him. This is the black lion, or the lion of lions. No one go near him. They say, what do we do? He says, stone him. Stone him from afar. And so Abis ibn Shabib al-Shakiri is killed in Karbala from stoning. But you look at others, Sa'id ibn Abdullah, for example, or Amr ibn al-Qarada. Both of these individuals are standing in front of Sayyid al-Shuhada as the Imam is praying behind them. And they're meeting every single arrow that is coming towards the Imam with their chest and their neck. When they fall to the ground, obviously it hurts. But this is that transcendence. This is that unattachment. Is removing all of the attachment, being so fani, being so annihilated within the divine light that you separate yourself from your own physical wujud. An ability that Amir al-Mu'mineen had. You hear the famous story of Amir al-Mu'mineen where he's in sajda, and as he's in sajda they can't pull an arrow from him when he's not in the state of salah. So the Prophet says, wait till he goes into salah and then you'll be able to pull the arrow from his egg. Why? Because this is the maqam of fana fillah, annihilation within Allah. But that same Ali also displays a time where he's in salah and he hears a beggar coming to the masjid. So which Again, we have a difference here. At one point, Ali is so lost that he doesn't feel an arrow come out. But then at one point in the masjid, he hears the beggar come in. I don't know if you're getting the nuance which I'm trying to highlight here. On one side, he doesn't feel anything from his, but then a few months later, when a beggar comes in, he hears the beggar say, "Oh Allah, I've left this house empty-handed." So what are these? Was he always fani, or was he not at the state of fana at that point? No, they say this is a different maqam. See, that state where they pulled out the arrow was fana, was annihilation in Allah. But the state when Amir al-Mu'mineen is in ruku', this state is known as baqa ba'd al-fana. This is subsistence, self-awareness after having been annihilated. What does that mean? To be annihilated within the divine light, to lose all sense of bodily existence, to lose all sense of want, all sense of desire, all detached and attached from all of it, that is fana. But baqa ba'd al-fana is that in that state of annihilation you then become self-aware. So now he's at that level of fana. They're pulling an arrow and he can't feel it because he's already at that state of annihilation. But they're not addressing him or addressing Allah, they're just pulling it from his physical wujud. In the state of ruku', when Amir al-Mu'mineen is in ruku', the beggar comes out, he asks, no one gives it. Amir al-Mu'mineen is there, he's praying, he doesn't give anything. But when the beggar leaves and he says, "Oh Allah, bear witness, I've left your masjid empty-handed," because he's at the level of baqa ba'd al-fana, of self-awareness after annihilation, that call that went into the godly realms was heard by the ears of Amir al-Mu'mineen then, and thus his hand extends out to give the ring. This level of detachment, to be detached from everything, it allows the person to ascend and do things that were shown in Karbala, that individuals were able to ascend beyond not just their physical boundaries, but also those metaphysical boundaries, to ascend within Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when we talk about this realm of total authority, when you attach to that total authority, then you are able to do great things as well. But it requires you to detach yourself from everything that seeks to distract you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the people that have only been able to do this in its truest sense are Ahlul Bayt. And so this is why when we spoke about yesterday that there is a group of people that will not die when Israfil blows his trumpet. In another ayah in the Holy Quran, in Surah An-Naml, Allah says, "Man jaa bil hasanati falahu khayrun minha wa hum min fadha'in yawma idhin aminun." Says, whoever brings good, does hasana, does good, he shall have better than it, and they shall be secure from the terror on the day of Qiyamah, from that blowing of the trumpet of Israfil. Now how do we know this is Ahlul Bayt? Because عادتكم الإحسان. In Ziyarat Jamia, Imam al-Hadi, when he's introducing Ahlul Bayt, says that you are عادتكم الإحسان. Your very habit, your very wujud is ihsan. All good comes from you. In ذكر الخير كنتم أوله وأصله ومعدنه ومأواه ومنتهاه. That any time there is any sort of mention of good, you are the origin of it, you are the peak of it, you are the end to it, you are the roots of it, you are the branches of it, you are the pinnacle of that khair. Any good you see in this world, its origin is Ahlul Bayt. Any evil you see in this world, its origin are the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. And so they are those that shall be free and away from this death at that time when when Israfil blows that trumpet. We said yesterday it's a day of great fear. It's a day of absolute pandemonium. The whole world The whole of existence is in a state of pandemonium. A real version of opening Pandora's box, that everything that can happen is happening, and the whole world is shutting down. Imam al-Rida salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi says there are three bottlenecks in the life of the human being that fill the human being with terror. 3 points, 3 transitions between 3 realms that fill him with terror. The first is the transition from the womb to the world. When he leaves the womb of his mother and enters into this world, he's filled with terror. For the safety of that womb, the smallness, he knows that world. But the moment he enters into this world, it's larger. There are various things that he sees, various things that he doesn't understand, and so he's filled with terror. The second bottleneck, or the second place where that terror fills him, is at the time of his death. Because the moment he sees Malikul Maut, 1 foot enters into the barzakh. Now this barzakh, this curtain that was between him and the hidden, the unseen world, between him and reality itself, has now been lifted. So before, he just saw the 4 walls of this room, but now when those curtains are lifted, now he sees the angels, he sees the malaika, he sees heaven and hell and everything happening simultaneous. This idea of the Day of Judgment, this is one thing I will caveat, that that day is what you make it. Your heaven and hell are being created simultaneous to your actions. It's not that there is a set place in heaven and that this is what your heaven will look like, this is what the wallpaper of your mansion will be, and this is what sofas. It's happening in real time. Every time you commit a sin, you destroy. Every time you do something good, you build. Forests and gardens you build for yourself through your actions in real time. But every time you sin, you destroy them in real time as well. That is the realm that is known as tajassamul a'mal. Your a'mal will take a form. Everything. From the moment you see Malakul Maut, now you enter into that realm. The barzakh is a semi-material realm. It's a realm that has shape, and it has color, and it has all of this, but it has no weight to it. So it's a semi-material realm. It's like looking into the mirror. It's you, but there's no weight in your reflection that's in the mirror. There's no mass to it. And so the barzakh is a semi-material realm. But then Yawm al-Qiyamah is a material realm again. And then your heaven and your hell are material, because it's an experience of not just the soul, but the body and the soul. And so your heaven, your hell, your Yawm al-Qiyamah, you are creating it right now. It isn't a day that you're just going to turn up, open the door, and oh wow, look, this is what God has in store for me. No, it is what you are creating for yourself right now, in this moment, and in every single moment that you remain within this world. So the second bottleneck is that moment when he dies and he enters into the barzakh. Now again, it's a larger world. It's got its own peculiarities about it. Then the third bottleneck, or place of sheer terror, is when that person dies in the barzakh and is resurrected on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Now the world that he knew is not the world that he left. There's no mountains, there's no trees, there's no sun, there's no stars in the sky. The whole universe has been rolled up and returned back to a single point. Everything all around has been, the seas are fire, and people are coming out of their graves in a state of dishevelment. It's a day of great fright. But there are ways to avoid that fright, and we will look at them either today if we get time, or then inshallah in the coming nights as well. It's such a day of fright that even as I started this series, from what point? From that line in dua, Abu Hamza Thumali, that the fourth Imam says, فَمَالِ لَا أَبْكِي. For what reason should I, Sajjad, not cry? أَبْكِي لِخُرُوجِ نَفْسِي. I cry for when my soul will be taken from my body. أبكي لضيق لهدي. I cry for the narrowness of my grave. أبكي لظلمة قبري. I cry for the darkness of my grave. أبكي لسؤال منكر ونكير إياي. I cry for the time when Munkar and Nakir will come and question me. أبكي لخروج من قبري. I cry for the time when I'll be taken out from my grave. أريانا ذليلا حاملا ثقلي على الظهر. Says that I cry for the time when I'll be taken out from my grave, naked, humiliated, carrying upon my back the burden of my sins. أنظر مرة عن يميني وأخرى عن شمالي إذا الخلائق شأن غير شأني. Says that ever I look left and right and find that nobody cares about me. Everybody is worried about themselves. That is a day of truth, Yawmul Haqq, the day of truth, when truth will manifest, the naked truth in quite the literal sense. The Imam says, Uryanan, naked on that day. That's a day where even people fear it, and it doesn't apply to everyone. Not everyone will be taken out from their grave naked. In fact, when the Holy Prophet is sitting with Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, and he's speaking to her about it. And when it comes to her death and they inform him that she has died, the Holy Prophet begins to weep and he says, okay, let me know when the ghusl and the kafan has been done. And so they come a short while later and they say, we've done the ghusl and the kafan. So, and we're ready to take the body to the graveyard. So Rasulullah says, come. And he goes with them to the graveyard. When they've dug the grave and they want to put her in the grave, the Holy Prophet says, wait. He goes inside the grave, he lays down in the grave first. Then he comes out and then he says, lower her in. And then he takes his aba off and he places it over her body. After they've buried her, the ashab, they come to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, this is something that we have never seen you do before. For no other person that has died. Says, what part? Says, you lying in the grave, you taking your aba and placing it on her body. Says, Ya Rasulullah, why is it that you did this? He says, some months ago, some years ago, I was telling my aunt, I was sitting with her, and she asked me about death. And so I told her about the fishar-e-qabr that will happen. Because very few people in this world, very few people will escape fishar-e-qabr. Fishar-e-qabr is when the graves, the walls of the graves, they crush, they come together. And the narrations say it is so severe that even the ribs of people, they begin to mix with each other. And both sides of the wall touch. So both sides of the grave of the wall, they touch and the person is crushed inside. And then I also told her that on that day, certain people will be raised naked. And she began crying and said, oh my son, Ya Rasulullah, will you save me on that day from these difficulties? And he said, yes, you have nothing to worry about. He says, so I laid in the grave. For the grave of anywhere where the ma'soom has been laid, the earth knows not to do fishar-e-qabr. Rather, even for the believers, there is no fishar, but the grave walls come but just to hug the person, to welcome them into this new world. Says, I laid in the grave so that she wouldn't have fishar-e-qabr. She was afraid that she would be raised on that day as naked. And so I gave her my aba as a covering. even though knowing full well that she will not be raised in that state. Because there are a certain category of people that will be raised naked on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Could you imagine it? You know, today when someone knocks at your door and you're in a vest or you haven't got a top on, you're like, where's my t-shirt? You're running around. Why? You don't even know the person. There's someone random. It's okay. It's only an Amazon delivery or something. Why are you so worried? So no, it's bad. I can't go to the door with just the vest on, or without a top on. Imagine now billions and billions of people and you're standing there naked. Imagine the embarrassment. So Yawm al-Haq, nothing is hidden on that day. Nothing is hidden. But there are certain individuals that commit certain sins in this world, that means that they will be raised naked on that day. And that sin is the one that belittles someone else. He makes fun of other people. He's in a state of authority and he oppresses those that are beneath him. He looks at them, he looks down at them. Anyone who walks with that arrogance, anyone who looks down upon anyone else, makes fun of anyone, puts another person down, Yawm al-Qiyamah, they will be raised naked. Those who highlight the flaws of other people. Someone's reciting, they accidentally say something wrong. And they were like, did you hear what he said? That highlighting the flaws of people, or this person's got this particular problem in their life, like they committed sin or whatever it is, you know about it, so you go around and you tell everyone, oh yeah, this guy, you got to watch out for him. So this person, you got to watch out for, oh, he did this, he did this, he did this. Not because he's a danger to anyone, but just because I like doing ghibah. Says that individual will be raised naked on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the one that exposes the flaws of other people. So Israfil has gone, he's blown the trumpet, everything has died. 400 years passes. Bodies are lying upon the earth. Allah has ordered the sky to rain, to rain, to rain. And every day for those 400 years he's calling out, Laman al-mulk al-yawm. Tell me, whose kingdom is it today? Lillahi wahid al-qahhar. It is the kingdom of God. And alone is it God's. After 400 years, he will bring Israfil back to life. And he will say, take your trumpet and go. And blow it again. And so Israfil will descend through the heavens. Imagine, nothing is alive except a few. Everything else is dead. Descend to the earth. And he will blow the trumpet again. And everyone will stand. Hence why it's called Yawm al-Qiyamah. The Qiyam. All will stand. People will come out of their graves. But no one will be alone. No, the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Qaf, in verse number 21, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَاءَتْ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَعَهَا سَائِقٌ وَشَهِيدٌ. Says every single person that comes out on the day of judgment will not be alone. With them there will be two individuals, two beings, one in front, one behind. One is called Sa'iq, the other is called Shaheed. Sa'iq is the one that stops that person from running anywhere. He's the one that's controlling. He's dragging the person out of the grave, dragging them towards the plains of Mahshar. And behind him is the Shaheed, the witness, who holds this individual's book of deeds in his hands. One is pulling, the other is standing there with everything. One is stopping him from running, one is stopping him from denying, one is stopping him from inkar, the other is stopping him from farar. And this is what Amir al-Mu'mineen refers to in Du'a Kumail, وَلَا يُمْكِنُ الْفِرَارُ مِنْ حُكُومَتِكَ. That how will I escape, how could I run from your kingdom? In this world I could do whatever I wanted, but in that world I won't be able to take a step until these individuals allow me to. وَلَا يُمْكِنُ الْفِرَارُ مِنْ حُكُومَتِكَ. Where will I run on that day? There will be nowhere for me to go. Nowhere for me to run. In front will be Sa'iq. Behind will be Shaheed. The Sa'iq pushes or pulls. The Shaheed brings the evidence. And that person is brought into the battle, into the whole field of Mahshar. And there will be all of existence, everything in existence will be there. All of these billions and billions of stars and these constellations you see, everything will be wrapped up, folded back. All of those beings. That's just, I said to you the other day, that's just Sama'ul Awwal, that's just the first heaven. There are 6 more beyond it. We just don't know of them. We just don't have the ability to reach them. This is just the first sky. All of them will be brought. The 6th Imam says the example, the difference in the population of the first sky and the second sky is this, that if you gather everything of the first sky and pretend that it's a ring and the size of a ring, and you take that ring and you drop it in an ocean, that's the size of the population of the second sky. And the third sky, it is as if the second sky was a ring and you dropped it in an ocean. That's the size of the third population of the third sky, and the fourth sky, and the fifth sky, and the sixth sky, and the seventh. All of them will be brought. All of them will be made to stand there on the day of judgment. But as I said to you, no one will make a sound. No one will speak. No one will talk. It will just be like the buzzing of bees, their breathing sounds. Because on that day, you won't even be able to speak until God allows you to. So in this world, you like to talk. In this world, you like to speak. In this world, you couldn't control your tongue. In that world, يَوْمَ نَخْتِمُ عَلَىٰ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ, we will seal your mouth. And your hands and your feet will speak to us. It is a realm of total authority of Allah. Here He gave us some freedoms. But over there is no freedom. All of them, people will be brought in, crying, wailing, trying somehow, some way to find some way out of this situation. Because on that day, the Quran says that for you it is enough that you yourself can judge where you're going. Certain people will come for judgment and they'll say to them, Ikra kitabik, read your own book. You yourself are a good enough judge for where you go. Some people just open the book, yeah, okay. Just I'll make my own way to hell, God. don't trouble yourself. I'll go myself. So on that day, people will know there's no escape. I've got nowhere to go. There'll be those that will be raised on that day, disheveled, faces darkened, lack of nur, just all over the place. The believers, on the other hand, Allahu Akbar, the mu'mineen on Yawm al-Qiyamah, says their faces will be illuminated. Not just illuminated, no. There will be so much nur coming off the face of the mu'min that it will illuminate the ground around him. Wherever he looks, it will illuminate from the light of his face. They will be raised from their graves with honor and respect. They will be told, you come. You are one of the good people. Peace be upon you for the patience you showed in the dunya. Come. And they will clothe them in clothing of light. They will place them upon camels of light. They will surround them with an entourage of angels. and this entourage of angels shall bring the mu'mineen into the plains of mahshar in this way, that everyone will look and say, who are these people? Are they prophets of God? Are they awliya? Are they imams? They'll turn around and say, no, they are neither prophets, they are neither of the awliya, they are neither of any of the a'imma alayhimus salam. These are the mu'mineen that were good in the dunya, the mu'mineen that abstained from sin and moved towards that which was haqq. These are those individuals. Then they will be taken to a shaded area on the plains of mahshar, where shades will be set for them, and they will tell them, you sit here, and there will be a table that will be set out, and food from heaven will be brought for them, and they will be told, you sit. You have nothing to worry about on this day. You have no fear, no worry on this day. You just relax and eat. Let us deal with the rest of existence. And then the rest of existence, it won't be individually judged. No, people will be brought in as groups, various groups. Mu'adh ibn Jabal is one day with the Holy Prophet at the house of Abu Ayyub Ansari, both good companions of the Prophet. Abu Ayyub Ansari is the one that is buried in Turkey, in Istanbul. So Mu'adh ibn Jabal is sitting in the house of Abu Ayyub Ansari, and he's talking with the Holy Prophet, and he asks the Holy Prophet, says, Ya Rasulullah, this ayah in the Holy Quran says, يَوْمَ نُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا, that and the day that this trumpet will be blown, people will be brought in as groups, group by group. What is meant by this? And the Holy Prophet says to him, Mu'adh, people will be brought in various groups. As they're taken out from their graves, one by one, as groups, they'll be brought into the plains of mahshar. Each of these groups will be brought in different ways as a result of different sins that they committed. A group will be brought in the form of monkeys. They'll be brought in. They've been transformed into monkeys. In this world they were humans, but now on Yawm al-Qiyamah they're looking at themselves and they're a monkey, and they're being brought in. You see, the adhab itself is not in just being turned into a monkey, or the second group that are turned into pigs and brought in as pigs into the plains of mahshar. The adhab is not just being turned into a monkey or a pig, but it's the fact that in your conscience you're still human. And so when you look at the previous nations such as Bani Israel, who began to face this direct adhab, when they would commit a certain sin, that nation would be turned, or those people would be turned into certain animals. They didn't last any more than 10 days. They would just die. Why? Because of the sheer psychological trauma that they were facing, that in their conscience and everything in their mind they were human, but in their outward appearance, every time they would speak they'd sound like a monkey, or they'd sound like a pig, or they'd sound like some other animal. And so the sheer psychological trauma of that would lead to their deaths. They didn't survive any more than 10 days in this world. Now on the day of Qiyamah, groups are being brought in. The first group, the Holy Prophet says, will be brought in like monkeys. The second group will be a group that will come in the form of pigs. They will be dragged into the plains of mahshar. The third group will be a group that will be turned upside down, their legs in the air, their faces being dragged along the earth. The fourth group will be a group who are on apparent all normal, but their eyes have been removed from their heads. They can't see anything, they're blind, and they're being dragged into the plains of mahshar. Another group will be brought in who are deaf and dumb. They can't hear anything, they can't say anything. They're being brought into the plains of mahshar. The next group will be a group whose tongues have been inflamed and are sticking out of their mouths, and they're forced to suck on these tongues. But the problem is, these tongues are filled with pus that stinks, and they're being forced to suck on that pus-filled tongue, and they're dragged into the plains of Mahshar. The next group will be a group whose arms and legs have been amputated from their bodies. They will be dragged and dropped onto the plains of Mahshar, unable to move, unable to do anything, lying on the burning earth of Mahshar. The next group will be a group where trees will be created. Remember, I said there's no trees, there's no mountains, nothing, everything has died. But trees, special trees will be erected in those places. But they're not just normal trees. No, they're trees made of fire. And these people will be taken and crucified to those trees. The next group that will come in will be a group who stink so bad. There's such a smell coming from their bodies that all of the people around that are facing adhab, that are burning from trees, that are being dragged on their faces, that are having arrows fired into their eyes, are having molten metal poured into their ears, they will all begin to complain. Say, Ya Allah, our adhab is nothing. Please, these people, they stink so bad, we can't take it. It's worse than our punishment that we're receiving. The last group that will be brought in is a group that from head to toe will be covered in boiling tar. Boiling tar will be stuck to their bodies. See, in that realm, there is no death. See, in this world, you go and you die, and you probably burn, and then you pull your hand away, or your nerve endings will burn away, and then eventually you can't feel anything. In that realm, there is no death. It just regenerates. And it's not just felt on one level. It's not just felt at the physical level. It is felt at the spiritual level. And that's much more painful. Why? That's why they say when you're giving ghusl and kafan to a dead body, be gentle with it. Don't speak loud around it. Speak gently. Why? Because its senses have heightened. It's left the realm of having all of these curtains around every sense. Now his senses have been awakened. Can't run from that reality. Now he sees and feels everything in its truest sense. In that realm, there's no nerve endings that will die. You feel everything, both at a physical and spiritual level. The pain is intense. It is beyond comprehension. And no matter how much they wish they could die from the pain, they cannot die. But each of these groups have a sin that is attached to them. They are being brought in as pigs and monkeys because of certain sins that they committed. That inshallah we'll look at tomorrow. What are those sins that they committed that brought them to this point? That distance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something that will take us down this path. And that's what leads to something like Karbala. Individuals who are hell-bent on causing as much pain to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that there was nothing that was there to stop them. There was nothing there. There was no boundary to the evil that they were willing to commit, because they had moved so far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Sayyid al-Shuhada himself, he says, Ana qatilul abarat. Says, I am the one that was killed, and I was made to cry at every point. They made me cry at the body of my Qasim. They made me cry at the death of my Ali Asghar. They made me cry at every point. He says, أنا قتيل الأبرار. He says, I am the one that was made to cry. But there are certain wounds that Abu Abdullah himself remembers. There are certain wounds that he received on the day of Ashura that he remembers you at those times, that they were too difficult for him to bear. They were difficult for Imam al-Hussein to take upon himself. Those things he wants you to remember are those that formed part of his wasiyah. His daughter Sakina says, when I came to the body of my father and I found his head had been severed from his body, and I lay on him, she says, I heard from that severed head of my father, from those veins that had been cut, there was a voice that was coming that said to me, Sakina, tell my Shi'as something. Shi'ati mahma in sharibtum bima'in fadhkuruni. Oh my Shi'as, whenever you drink cold water, then make sure that you remember me. Oh sami'tum bigharibin aw qatilin fandabuni. If you ever hear about someone who was alone, had no helpers around him, and was killed in this way, then do nudba over me, cry over me. فَأَنَا الصَّبْتَ الَّذِي بِغَيْرِ جُرْمٍ قَتَلُونِي. For I am the son of Rasulullah that was killed for no crime. وَبِجَرْدِ الْخَيْرِ بَعْدَ قَتْلِ عَمْدٍ فَسَحَقُونِي. And I am the one whose body was trampled after his death. And then he says something that breaks the heart of every Shia. He says, Shi'ati laytakum fi yawmi Ashura jami'an tanzuruni. Oh my Shias, how I wish you were there on the day of Ashura and you would have seen, Ya Abu Abdullah, what is it you want us to see? He says, Shi'ati laytakum fi yawmi Ashura jami'an tanzuruni. My Shias, how I wish you were there and you would have seen what, oh master? كيف استسقي لطفلي فأبوا أن يرحموني. How I took my 6-month-old child out, and what mercy they showed me, Hussein. What mercy did they show him? Your Imam says, السلام على الطفل الرضيع مذبوح من الأذن إلى الأذن من الوريد إلى الوريد. My salam be upon that child that was slaughtered from ear to ear, from artery to artery. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. ماتم يا حسين.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. सूरह कहफ सुनाता है ये सर किसका है. सूरह कहफ सुनाता है ये सर किसका है. सूरह कहफ सुनाता है ये सर किसका है. सूरह कहफ सुनाता है ये सर किसका. खून आँखों से बहाता है, खून आँखों से बहाता है ये सर किसका है. सूरह कहफ सुनाता है ये सर किसका है. सूरह कहफ सुनाता है ये सर किसका. खून आँखों سے بہاتا ہے خون آنکھوں سے بہاتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا چلتے چلتے جو سکینہ کہیں گر جاتی ہے چلتے چلتے جو سکینہ کہیں گر جاتی ہے خود کو نیزے سے گراتا ہے خود کو نیزے سے گراتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا جس طرف جاتا ہے بازار میں سر اکبر کا جس طرف جاتا ہے بازار میں سر اکبر کا اس طرف دیکھتا جاتا ہے اس طرف دیکھتا جاتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا جب داخل کسی بازار میں ہوتے ہیں حرم جب داخل کسی بازار میں ہوتے ہیں حرم پہلا پتھر یہی کھاتا ہے پہلا پتھر یہی کھاتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا رات ہوتی ہے تو معصوم سی ایک بچی کو رات ہوتی ہے تو معصوم سی ایک بچی کو لوری نیزے سے سناتا ہے لوری نیزے سے سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے کہ قرآن کی آیات سر زینب سے پڑھ کے قرآن کی آیات سر زینب سے دھیان لوگوں کا ہٹاتا ہے دھیان لوگوں کا ہٹاتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے یہ سما کاش نہ دیکھے کوئی خواہ اس کی یہ سما کاش نہ دیکھے کوئی خواہ اس کی شمر زلفوں سے اٹھاتا ہے شمر زلفوں سے اٹھاتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا خون آنکھوں سے بہاتا ہے خون آنکھوں سے بہاتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے سورہ کہف پھر سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے. سورہ کہف پھر سناتا ہے یہ سر کس کا ہے. یا حسین یا حسین
السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ, السلام علیکم یا نبی اللہ, السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ. السلام علیکم یا وسیع رسول رب العالمین. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا نبی صدیقۃ فاطمہ الزہرا سیدۃ نساء العالمین. السلام علیکم بنت رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا حسن ابن علی المجتبی ابن رسول اللہ سید نسل ابن امیر المؤمنین. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا ابا عبد اللہ حسین. السلام علیکم ابن رسول اللہ. السلام علیکم ابن امیر المؤمنین. السلام علیکم ابن سید المسیح. السلام علیکم الشہید المشہید. السلام علیکم المظلوم ابن مظلوم لعنۃ اللہ علی الظالمین. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علی حسین وعلی آل ابن حسین وعلی آل حسین وعلی اصحاب الحسین. خصوصا السلام علیکم وعلی غازی بن عباس ابن امیر المؤمنین. السلام علیکم ابن صالح رحمۃ اللہ رسولہ. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم ابن غربا. السلام علیکم الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام علیکم شمس الشموس ایها المحمون والرطوس ایها الرزاء الراسب الغزل والخضاء السلطان العرب والعجم. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم وعلى صاحب رسول الزمان الامان 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 مدة الزمان. السلام علیکم شیخ القرآن. السلام علیکم یا امام الانس والجان یا سیدی عجل اللہ تعالی فرجک وسهل اللہ مخرجک وظهورک وانصار جميع ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله. ہے ساتھ وفي كل ساتھ وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه عزة